What is going on, campers? Welcome back to video 2 of my Cryptid Camp tutorial series. In this one, we're going to be covering the start of the game, the phases of the game, and the objective of the game. But first off, let's start with the objective. And the objective is to procure or gather 10 evidence from sites within your opponent's camp. And the way you do that is through exploration with a cryptid, primarily. There are other ways, but the primary way to gather evidence is through exploring the various sites in your opposing camper's camp. As an additional requirement, 3 trails must be revealed on their side of the field or within their camp. Now, we saw trails in the last video, although I did forget to introduce them when I introduced the original cards. But each deck starts with 6 trails, and as the game progresses, you and your opponent will be exploring each other's sites within their camps, and as you explore, trails will be flipped over. Now, your opponent can explore one site as many times as they want and get as much evidence as they want, but until at least 3 of your trails have been flipped up, they cannot claim victory. And same with you. Like, you must flip 3 of your opponent's trails and collect 10 evidence in order to win. Now, along with an objective, there is actually a way to lose the game very quickly, and that is if you happen to reveal an illegal card. So in this game, cards will be set down, face down, and they will be revealed. And only certain cards can be set face down. Mainly cryptids and traps. If anything else, like a memory, for example, is placed face down and is revealed to be a memory, then that camper instantly loses the game. It doesn't mean that you can't do that move, because until it's revealed, you don't lose, so you could use it for bluffing, but it's a very risky move. Alright, we'll slide right into actual start of a game. Last video, I slightly covered it, but I'll cover it a little bit more now. The first thing you're going to do when you play a game is you're going to roll a dice, see who goes first, and then you're both going to draw a hand of 7 cards, and then you're going to mulligan, or you have the option to mulligan. Now, this style of mulligan is you can place down as many cards as you want and throw back on the bottom of your deck however many you want, and then draw more from the top of your deck. So we have 7 cards here. Let's say we don't want like an extra Aku. We don't want, I don't know. Just say we didn't want like a Hungry Ghost or something. We would put those underneath our deck, and we would draw 2 additional cards. And that would be our mulligan. Now, the first one is free. Every time you mulligan after that, your opponent gets to draw 2 additional cards, which is a huge penalty. So, yeah, I would advise against that. Okay, so you both have your trail cards down. You've drawn your hand. You've mulliganed. Now we go into the turn sequence. Now, the start of day is the very first sequence. You're going to be switching all your lanterns off. So what that means is you'll be switching your lanterns to the vertical position. Horizontal is when you switch them on and you gain their vision power, and vertical is when they're off and ready to use. Then you automatically play a lantern from your lantern deck. So if you didn't have any on the first turn, obviously you don't have any to switch off, but then you play your first one. Now, note underneath it says first turn rule. Both campers play 1 lantern from their lantern deck. So your opponent on turn 1, even if you go first, they're going to play a lantern as well. So then when it goes back to their turn, they're actually going to have 2 lanterns to use. So a very big rule, very big thing to remember. Third thing you're going to do in your start of day sequence is simply just draw a card. Okay, now we get into the camp phase, or turn sequence 2. First thing you'll see in turn sequence 2 is you can reveal a hidden cryptid in a site and pay to play it into the region. Now what is, a hidden cryptid? Well, unfortunately, I can't just pay for my cryptid to go on the field because cryptids must be placed face down first in this game. So let's pretend that we had a cryptid placed face down. We'll just use this one here. This is the point where you can pay for this cryptid and have him actually played in the game. Until this point, he is known as a hidden entity. And once he's flipped over, only then is he known as a cryptid. Now keep in mind that traps can be hidden entities as well, but you can't actually pay for a trap in the adventure phase. You have to wait until your opponent explores that site. Okay, so if I wanted to pay for this, Bruja de Cafetel, I'm going to look at his level. His level is 2. That means he costs 2 vision. Let's say we had 2 lanterns out. Now, the most important thing is the color of the card denotes at least 1 lantern of that color needs to be used. So this entire cost does not need to be covered by obsidian lanterns, but one of them does. So it doesn't matter whether it costs 1 or 5. You have to have 1 obsidian lantern to pay for his cost. The rest can be paid with any vision type or any lantern type. It doesn't matter. The other thing you can do with revealing and playing a cryptid is your companion. Now, your companion, when you play him, comes out immediately from your companion zone. So it's almost as if your companion has been, well, your companion is face down the whole time, but he's ready to go. So if it comes to your action phase, or sorry, your camp phase, then, and you have enough vision to play your companion, then he's good to go. And you move it from the companion zone to whichever site you would like to play them in. The ones that were placed down face down must be played into the site that they were placed in. The companion is the only exception to that, or any cryptids that have the ability to be played from the hand. Okay, so aside from playing cryptids that were face down, you can switch your entity's battle modes from attack vertical to defense horizontal. So that's pretty self-explanatory. This Bruja de Cafetel is in attack mode right now. If I were to turn him horizontal, he would be in defense mode. Oops. And actually, you want to be this way when you turn them sideways because it wants to be opposite of the trails, which is kind of a nice feature of this game, that they made the trails opposite, so it keeps it a little nicer. But yeah, so you can do that an infinite amount of times during this phase, to any of your cryptids that are already in sites. You can change their battle position. You can play a supply card. Now, we talked about supply cards. This one happens to be a cabin supply. This one is a treasure supply. So if you would like to play a supply, a treasure you would play into a cache, paying its cost. This is also 2 obsidian. So you would pay at least 1 obsidian lantern and then at least 1 more of any other vision. And you would play it into that zone. And cryptids with Mothman in their name cost -2 vision to play. Although some cards will do effects specifically to the row that they are next to, so keep that in mind. The next kind of supply card are trail cards, or structure supplies. These ones must be built on trails. Again, I'm just using this as an example. The Corallium cabin cannot be built on an obsidian trail. It has to be a Corallium trail, but I'm just, what's at hand right now. So you would pay 1 Corallium vision in order to build this on top of a trail. which leads me to the part where trails and cabins that are built on trails do not count as entities. So before I mentioned that cryptid is an entity, and when it's face down, it is a hidden entity. Well, trails and cabins don't count as either, or structures don't count as either. So if you have cards that affect entities, they will not affect the trails or the structures that are on the trails. Now, of course, the third supply that I just don't have an example of right now is equipment, and that can be placed either in one of your caches or it can be placed directly on your cryptid. And when your cryptid is defeated, it goes back into your cache so that it can then be re-equipped to a different cryptid. Okay, so this next part here is equipping and re-equipping gear supplies, which, yeah, we just mentioned. Um, you can play to pay memory or environment cards. We mentioned the environment in the last one. So the environment is played on your right hand side in the orientation that you want. Um, each half of the field is affected by a different one with these dual ones. And with these single portrait ones, both sides are affected the same. So both sides gain this Mothman reunion because it's a single portrait one. But this side gains heat, this side gains rain. So that's playing environment cards. And then, of course, we have the memories, which are the spells. So you can play a spell, you play it for its cost. This would be at least one fluorite vision and then 7 of any vision. You play it, use the effect, goes to the discard. Aviator is a CZO memory. And if you'll see here, you can once per turn play one CZO. So it's just like a memory, works the exact same way. You pay for it, goes to the discard, the effect happens. Just has a restriction of only being able to play one per turn. Um, you can, yeah, reveal and play your companion. So I kind of jumped the gun on that one, but yeah, that option is there. So those are all the options in your camp phase, and then you move on to your adventure phase. Now this is where we're going to be trying to find evidence and battle your opponent's cryptids. Um, so during this phase, each entity at a site can perform one adventure action. Now, keep in mind that it states entity. That includes hidden entities. So a cryptid that is face down is a hidden entity, and a cryptid that is face up is just an entity. So they can perform one adventure action. You must switch their battle modes. Now, you can either move, which just moves you one square by default, or you can explore, which is where you look into your opponent's site for evidence and you flip their trail up. And if there happens to be an entity there or a hidden entity there, you will interact with that. So if it's a hidden entity, they'll flip it up. And if they happen to pay for it, then you figure out how to interact with it. If it's a trap, that'll go off, the effects happen. If it's a cryptid, then usually it's a battle. Um, and then, of course, there's alternate actions. With the Bruja de Cafatel is actually a perfect example. This cryptid may use an adventure action so that you may play a cryptid from your hand into your camp. So this actually kind of gets rid of the need to place a cryptid down. So if you were to use Bruja de Cafatel's action, I could just pay one and play the Dark Watchers directly from my hand without having to have him on the field. So that's kind of the adventure phase in a nutshell. Each entity, including the hidden ones, gets one action. Obviously, hidden entities cannot explore because they don't have stats to explore with. Um, but cryptids can. Now, one big thing I will note about exploration that is hugely and wildly different from other TCGs is that you can explore in both attack mode and defense mode. You do not need to be in attack mode to explore a site because you're not attacking a site, you're exploring it. And you can go in with either an offensive or a defensive mindset. That's the way I kind of look at it. Um, and there'll be reasons for that. Um, they'll be revealed in the next video when we talk about evidence check. But this is kind of just a quick go over. So, in your adventure phase, um, it gives you one last chance to switch your battle modes if you forgot to do it in your camp phase. If your entity has not acted yet, like let's say I haven't moved or explored or used an additional action with this cryptid yet, then I can still be like, oh, I forgot to change them. I'll put them in attack mode and then I'll explore. But yeah, each entity, one action. That's what you got to remember. Um, Another basic rule of movement, real quick, is if you move an entity to a space that's occupied by another entity, um, it is automatically moved. And the one that did the initial movement is the one who uses the action. So the one that got moved doesn't actually waste its action by being moved by another entity. Um, One last thing about movement, you can't normally move into your opponent's camp, although there are abilities that do allow you to do that. And if you were to move into your opponent's camp and they happen to have an entity in the spot you moved in, it would in fact be switched into your camp. So you do still swap places when you move into your opponent's camp. Okay, end of the day. Before your turn ends, you may set cryptids or traps from your hand face down in any battle mode and empty sites. These become hidden entities and aren't treated as cryptids or traps until they're played. And as we mentioned earlier, they're played once they're flipped up and paid for. So in this phase, in the very end of your turn, this is where I can say, okay, I'm going to put down, and even though this has a structure on it, I'll just lock these so it's easier. Um, I can say, okay, I'm going to play this here, and I can even put it in defensive mode, even though it's a trap. But my opponent doesn't know it's a trap. And then I can take another cryptid, and I could put a cryptid here in face down attack mode. And they will be there until either my opponent explores that site and forces me to flip it up, or until my next camp phase when I decide to pay and flip them up myself. Now, when your opponent explores you and forces a flip up, if you do not have the vision available to tap or to uh, turn on, I should say, if you don't have the lanterns to turn on, then you can't pay for it and it doesn't work. It fizzles, it goes directly into your discard. So if you're going to leave things as hidden entities, make sure you have the mana to pay for it, or the vision to pay for it, sorry. Um, or, what up? I'm not going to tell you what to do. Bluff them if you want to. And then the final thing you're going to do in that turn is you're going to resolve any end of day effects. So the hardest thing to remember in this game, sequence wise, is remembering that, like for the first turn, unless you have a way to get a cryptid out immediately, you're probably not going to be playing any of your cryptids until turn 2, because you have to set your cryptids and traps before you can play them. Now the next video is going to get into like the meat and potatoes of exploring. Um, we're going to talk about more advanced movement. Um, we're going to talk about battles, exploration, evidence check, trail check, and cryptid abilities. So I hope that through these 3 videos, I can cover everything and make it a little bit easier to find, especially having them separated. Like having the battle video as its own video, I think is a good idea. It'll have a quick reference to all of the abilities. So yeah, I will see you guys in the next one, and thank you very much for watching the videos, and get the plan. Peace.